G'day, you ready to keep going on with these questions up to question 7. Now this is where we've got two events. We've got a person tossing a coin and then tossing a coin again. We want to use a tree diagram to show how we can demonstrate the outcomes. So the coin is tossed the first time. When you toss a coin, you're going to get either heads or tails. Now you toss the coin again, and for these two examples here, you've already got a head. You're starting with the head, and when you toss it again, you either get a heads or a tails. Over here, you've got the tails. You've already tossed that, and you've got tails the first time. The second time, you're either going to get heads or tails. So these are our 4 different options when we toss a coin twice. We get heads and heads, heads and tails, tails and heads, and tails and tails. So there's a sample space of 4 different outcomes. So the first one, we've got to get the probability. We're asked to calculate the probability of no heads. So let's see if we can just start typing over here. I'd rather go a little bit further over here. Probability, no heads, equals. So there are 2 ways that we can get. There's only one way that we can get no heads, is when we throw tails and tails. So that's one possible way out of our 4 different options: heads and heads, heads and tails, tails and heads, tails and tails. The only way we get no heads is if we do tails and tails. So the probability of that is 1 in 4. The probability is of just getting 1 head. Okay, so let's go probability of 1 head in the answer. So there's 2 ways that we can get 1 heads: when we throw our heads and the tails, or when we throw tails or heads. So it's going to be 2 different ways we can get it out of the 4 options, and we can simplify that. They've immediately put it in as the fraction. We can simplify that as to 1 is to 2, and we can write it as a decimal if we want. So 2 out of 4, which simplifies to 1 over 2, or 0.5 as a decimal. So the next one is calculate the probability of 2 heads. I think you're probably getting the hang of this now. Probability of 2 heads. I'll just write the rule just to remind us. Probability is the event that you're looking at divided by the total number of outcomes. So 2 heads, there's 1 way that we get 2 heads out of the 4. Okay, and the last one, probability of heads then tails. So it's being very specific. It doesn't want the probability of head. It doesn't want 1 head and 1 tails. It wants toss a head and then toss a tail. So probably there's 1 way out of the 4 that we can do to do that. Now we move into a different sort of diagram, okay? And that is the 2-way table. We just have to so we've got line and right, so 2 4-letter words. We just want to pop a table in here to help us. So we're going to go 5 by 5. It's going to be the winner there. And let's see if I'm good enough to bring it up a little bit. Not sure that I am. Okay, so the first word was line. So L I N E, and the second word is right. R I D E. So when we put these together, we've got an R and an L here, an R and I here, an R and an N here, and an R and an E. I'll just go back 1 step. It's saying that they're choosing a letter from the word line and a letter from the word right. So in this case, let's say you choose the R first. There's an equal chance choosing an L, an I, and so on. Let's say you choose the I first. When you choose the line, it can be IL. This is II. This one is IN. This one is IE. Next one, DL, DI, DN, and DE. The last one is EL, EI, EN, and EE. So that's the sample space down here. These 16 combinations, the 16 different combinations. that we get. So there are 16 possible outcomes. Possibility of NR. So we choose N here and R here. It's going to be 1 over 16. Possibility of NR is going to be 1 divided by 16. That's one way out of the 16. The possibility of LD, so there's only one way of getting an L and a D. It's also going to be 1 divided by 16. Okay, the next one becomes a little bit more interesting. Possibility of 2 vowels. Remember, always our rule, it's the event divided by the total. So how many examples have 2 vowels here? EI does, EE does, and IE does, and II does. So I think there are 4, 2, 3, 4 that have the 2, 4 out of 16, which is the same as we can divide both the top and bottom by 4. 1 divided by 4 is the best way of writing that. Now, 2 constants. So we're going to do the same thing, probability of 2 constants. Okay, let's have a look at how we got R and L, R and N. So there's 1, 2 there, 3, 4. Turns out there's 4 of those as well. 4 divided by 16 out of the 16 combinations, which equals, when you divide both the top and bottom by the common factor of 4, 1 divided by 4. Find the probability that the 2 letters chosen are the same. Probability of the same. Both letters being the same. It doesn't happen in the RR line. It happens on the II line here. It doesn't happen here, but it happens in EE. So it happens twice out of the 16 combinations, which is the same as 1 divided by it.